This is all about policy and differences and specifics and what you bring to the table and why. And none of you are novices, shall we say, in all of this. So, I mean, let's start with you, Will.
Whoops, wait a minute, I hit the wrong button.
Yeah, I did that too.
Yeah.
I'm not good with buttons.
So, Will, why do you want to do this again?
I don't know.
Yeah, you should know better.
Well, to be honest with you, a lot of people, came up and said, "Are you going to run?" I had a lot of support, and I said, "Well, okay." And the thing is, things are going good, and if I can keep contributing, to where, because as you know, the last 4 years have been tough, as far as what happened, to the country, much less Pittsburgh. So it was I'm running more or less because a lot of people have asked me.
And what are you running on? What are issues?
What issues?
Yeah, I mean, I don't, no disrespect.
No.
But people have asked me, sort of ranks up with I want to serve, and in the sense that everybody says that they've been asked,
No, I mean, that's why, the first time I ran, 4 and 4 because I wanted to.
beat me.
But this time here, a lot of people said, I said, okay, that's it, I've done my duty.
Okay.
So some folks said, well, come on, do it again. I said, okay.
Okay. So you don't really want to do this?
It's not a question of not wanting to do it.
Uh-huh.
It's a question of, they have term limits for everything else of 8 years and things like that. And of course, there's no term limits here. So I said, well, you have to excuse me, Bob, but we've done a good job. Might as well keep on doing it. That's the real reason that I'm running. We've done a good job, and hopefully we can keep it on the right path.
Okay. We'll come back to specifics in a second.
Okay.
Bob, welcome to the fray again. Your reasoning?
Well, obviously, the city, along with a lot of other cities, are facing difficult economic times coming up. And I think it's important that we have people on the council that have gone through difficult times before. And, I've got 13 years' experience serving on the city council in Pittsburgh. When I was first elected in 1989, the first budget I was presented with in 1990 was categorized as a bare bones budget. And we bit the bullet and passed it, but we immediately started looking for ways to increase revenue. And we came up with some innovative plans to do that. We expanded the redevelopment area in the early 1990s to greatly increase the amount of tax increment that was coming into the city.
Yes, that is how Pittsburgh does it, isn't it?
Well, how we did it in the past. We're obviously not going to be able to do that in the future. But I think one of the most important things that we did in 1996, we formed the Pittsburgh Power Company. And that really has positioned Pittsburgh to take advantage of a lot of economic development opportunities that are out there. And I think we have to focus on the opportunities that having the power company presents to us, and try to maximize the leverage we have to partner with other cities and entities to do projects in both the transmission and generation field of energy. There are some very exciting new technologies on the horizon for converting municipal garbage into energy. And I think Pittsburgh is well positioned to take advantage of those kind of projects. And I would certainly be looking forward to moving the Pittsburgh Power Company forward to take care of the economic development for the city of Pittsburgh going forward.
I guess it's my turn now.
Yeah, it's your turn.
Well, you've known me a long time, I'm sure, because I went through this a long time before I got here. As you know, it took me 11 years to get on the council, and I want to thank both of you for the opportunity to come here and at least to get an opportunity to get an endorsement from the Costa newspaper, because this will be, if I do, it'll be the first time I've ever had one, so I appreciate that opportunity. Why I'm running? Because I always like to give back to the I've been giving to the community for a long time, not just in the council, but I like what I do, first of all. I enjoy the opportunities that we do as a city. I'm involved in so many things, not just the city. I'm the president of the League of Cities East Bay Division. I'm the president of our power company with our conglomerate with Lancaster. I'm on the ABAG board. I'm involved fully in what's going on in the community. I'm also out there with the community and talking to the people all the time. The people know who I am, and they, when they have a problem, they call me, and I give them my phone number directly. Say, here's my cell number. If you have a problem, call me, and it's open. I'm open to anybody to call me with an issue. So that's the reason why I'm still running. There's still issues to do. We still have things to fix. We still have things to finish, and I want to finish. Next time around, I'll be 70 years old. So I think this is the last time I'll probably run, but I think it's important that we complete everything that we started out to do. Not that we haven't done a lot in the last 8 years. We've brought in almost 25 new businesses into the community of all different sorts and types. So with that in mind, that's why I'm running.
Okay, so let's stick with you. You said still issues to do, and with the exception of maybe Bob's waste to energy, I really didn't hear any issues in anything any of you said, other than you want to serve and blah, 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 blah. So give me some issues, give me some meat, give me some substance.
Substance of things that we need to do and finish.
Things you need to do,
I think we've been balancing the budget every year. We've been able to do that even in the trying times. So that's not really, to me, an issue at this point. Working with the community, working with the budgets. Basically, right now we have an ample reserve, 20%. We even have a stabilization fund of $10 million for a rainy day fund to protect us in case something else happens. We've established.
Do me a favor. Don't read from your notes.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, and then we have a 7-year stabilization plan, and that we've set up to watch and see what's going to happen over the next 7 years, and give us an idea of where we're going to go and how we're going to do it. Those are the important things that we need to do, is make sure that we finish what we started. The California Theater, we've got to finish that. We've got to get through the redevelopment issues and decide exactly where we're going to be in the next couple of years for redevelopment. Those are the things that are very important to our needs as a city, because we were, as you know, we were a large redevelopment agency, and so we went through.
We'll come back to that.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
And so anyway, pretty much as a whole, I think I like what I do. I enjoy being on the council. I enjoy getting involved in the community. I enjoy fixing things and getting things to work better. I enjoy the camaraderie with the community, because you can work with the community and make the community a better place. And I think that's the reasons why, personally, I think we need to continue to focus on basically the issues that we need. We've already done a lot of things that make us better. Already, in the last 8 years, we've done a tremendous amount of things to make the city a better place. We get good kudos from cities outside of the area. Got more people coming to the community now. Those things are all positives.
But
We've
all right,
Yeah.
let's say in 4 years from, let's say you're elected in 4 years from now, what one thing would you like to say you got done in the next 4 years?
in the next 4 years,
What did you,
personally.
not personally, but
As
your
a-
leadership?
Okay. I think the key things that I would like to see done in the next 4 years is obviously to have we're going to come into a period of time with all the agencies, the unions, and we're going to have to deal with those things. And I want to see a smooth transition through those periods of time to make sure we continue on and are able to keep a balanced budget. Sustainability is the key thing in today's world. You have to be sustainable. And working with the unions is important in both ways to make us all work together. And I think that'll probably be the key thing for the next 4 years is having a good sound base with the unions and working together and obviously making us grow together.
Can you give me a little more substance of issues?
Yeah, I think one of the first things that we need to do is seriously consider hiring an economic development director. We've got too many vacant storefronts in the downtown area, in Vidro and Atlantic Plaza and Century Plaza. You know, we're losing our Rayleigh's store, we've lost Best Buy, we've had numerous restaurants closed, we're possibly going to lose Target. We've got a major vacancy in our auto mall, although the auto mall is still penciling out with the one tenant that we do have. We have a lot of vacant industrial property near our waterfront. We've got an enterprise zone, but we've got to squeeze more benefit out of that enterprise zone and maximize the old John Mansville property, the vacant Diablo Seaways property. And USS POSCO has excess capacity at their loading docks. I mean, these are all opportunities that we could try to attract marine-based development to the downtown area. But the most important thing that I've noticed, I've been walking the precinct since early August, and I'm really concerned about blight coming back into our neighborhoods. We spent $200 million in redevelopment funds to get rid of blight, and I've really seen a lot of blighted properties in the neighborhoods that I've been walking, and these aren't just the old neighborhoods in Pittsburgh. I mean, there's neighborhoods that are 5 to 10 years old that, you know, have 4-foot tall weeds in the front yard, inoperable vehicles in the driveways and on the streets. You know, no front yard landscaping. You know, we need a serious code enforcement effort in the city of Pittsburgh to stem the tide of blight that's creeping back into our
Could
neighborhoods.
any of that have possibly been because Pittsburgh didn't spend all of its redevelopment money to get rid of blight?
Well, we spent a good portion of it. The time that I was on the council, we cleared most of the blighted areas of the city.
Okay, I understand, but a lot of your redevelopment money, I mean, you put your whole city in a redevelopment agency.
Virtually,
Virtually.
not the entire
And then
city,
you
but
spent
most
a lot
of
of
it.
the money doing other things, didn't you?
Well, I mean, there's been a lot of projects done since I left the council in 2002. Up to 2002, we had mainly put in new infrastructure, torn down old dilapidated buildings, and the other thing that I'm concerned about, we have an ordinance on the books prohibiting shopping carts, and yet there's vacant shopping carts abandoned all over the city. When you're trying to do economic development and you're trying to bring businesses into the city, it doesn't present a good image to these potential clients, these potential businesses, when they see that kind of blight and those kind of conditions. So I think we need a serious code enforcement effort to get us back on track as far as eliminating blight.
But let's say 4 years from now, same question. What one thing would you want to say, want to make sure that got done in 4 years?
I would say we've hired an economic development director. We've greatly reduced the amount of vacancies in our commercial area. We've maximized some of the opportunities we have in our waterfront, and we've got the city looking better.
Okay.
Well,
I don't want to argue with these guys.
well, we don't want you to argue with them. What we want you to just tell us what issues,
Okay.
what things need to, what are the issues you want to accomplish?
Okay, the bottom line is economics, okay? We have to keep our budget balanced. And we have set aside money because over the next 4 to 7 years, we don't have enough money to balance the budget. So any new projects, forget it. It's not going to happen unless it's paid for by something else. I mean, so the realistic thing is to maintain the quality of the city that we have now. And I first came to Pittsburgh in 1993, and I can tell you right now, it's a different city than it was in 1993. A lot of it had to do with redevelopment. Most of it had to do with the citizens who lived there, who wanted a better place to live, worked with the city, worked with the police department. The crime rate's the lowest it's been in 50 years. So things are a lot better in Pittsburgh than they were when I got here, and I'm not taking credit for it. Okay?
You came in an interesting time.
I did.
Lowest it's been in 50 years.
Yep. 51 if you want to be accurate. 51.
What is
Well,
that based on? I keep hearing that number kicked around. What is that
Yeah,
based on?
FBI statistics,
Of what?
the numbers that they've conglomerated over the years, that's what I've been told.
Of self-reported numbers from the city?
I would believe that's probably,
Yeah.
No, it's how many crimes are committed.
Yeah, but self-reported.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
self-reported by the victims.
Well,
You know.
yeah, but I'm never quite sure how, you would know better, but I'm never quite sure how
No, what
they
happens is if there's a crime,
standardize the
you write a
reporting.
report,
Yeah.
and then you count them
Okay.
up.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. So let's talk about the budget situation. Let's start with you, Will.
Okay.
You know, since you just raised this, give me the lay of the land on the budget and talk about the various aspects of it and where, you know, why you are concerned over the next 4 to 7 years. And
Okay.
also, talk about also, well, start with that and then let's go from there. Okay?
First of all, we don't have just one budget. We've got many.
Right.
The general fund is the one that we just had Proposition P, and it was passed by the citizenry. And I think it's 70% of that is for public safety. So the source of that is property tax, sales tax, okay? So that is one issue that we're dealing with, so far successfully. Then you have the other ones, you know, when you have other different funds, you know, that, what we had redevelopment, of course, that was taken away from us.
And again, you realize why it was taken away, right?
Yeah, because the state's greedy.
Yeah, you guys kind of contribute to your problem, don't you think?
What?
You guys kind of contributed to the problem.
And we went
don't
out
you?
of business in 2009.
Did you?
Yes.
We stopped doing redevelopment in 2009.
You stopped taking increment in 2009?
No,
Yep.
we, you know, if we wanted to, you know, keep getting the tax, things like that, and all the breaks, we had to stop new projects. We stopped new projects, and we said we're going to pay off the debt. That was in 2009.
That's because you'd gotten so.
It was enough. Enough was enough.
Yeah.
We knew we were there.
Yeah, but I guess my point is, and we can come back to this, and we will come back to this, but wasn't Pittsburgh sort of the poster child for redevelopment excess?
Excess?
Yeah.
No.
I don't think so.
No.
I don't either.
No way. There's just no way at all. We used the money wisely. We used it importantly. First of all, we got rid of the blight. There was a lot of blight there. We got rid of old motels. We got rid of, we did infrastructure to make the streets better to where they're cleaner and straighter. We put new infrastructure in under the grounds that was 100 years old. That's all part of
Was
doing
the whole
blight.
city blighted?
A good majority of the downtown, half of it was. 50% of
But
the
the whole
streets.
city was in a
2/3.
redevelopment agency.
Not all.
Two-thirds.
No, not all. The whole city wasn't. About
2/3 of the
85%.
city's
About
230
85%
maybe
of
by
it.
now, but when we first started this, when I first was.
Oh, no.
Well, that goes back
Yeah.
to 1990. When did they put it in there?
Well, I mean, I guess
early
my
years.
point is this notion that Pittsburgh put the whole city in its redevelopment agency practically,
Practically, yeah.
right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, that's how it
Do
was
you-
percepted. Yeah,
yeah.
perception.
yeah, wasn't that, I mean, don't you think that contributed to part of the problem of why redevelopment agencies got such?
No. What about the other cities? They're not 2/3 of the redevelopment agency, and they're in worse trouble than we are.
Yeah, because.
Redevelopment did not cause us a problem.
It was how they used some of the money. I mean, look at Hercules, for instance, how they used their money. And-
That's another, that's called
well,
corruption.
Bell.
Yeah.
Okay, we got Bell. There's a lot of things. We didn't do any of that stuff.
Okay.
Basically, we used it wisely. We repaired the streets, new streets. And that's all part of the blight. That's what the redevelopment was supposed to be used
Okay.
for.
Okay.
You know-
Well, I pulled you off topic, Will. You were saying that you were talking about the budget concerns, and let me let you get
Okay,
back to that.
thank you very much.
Okay.
Well, all the other budgets, you know, we get money from the taxpayers for various things, you know, departments or things in the city, and we're doing fine. There's enough money. We had to reduce staff. That's the big cut was we had to reduce staff. And the other thing we did, for example, was rather than operate our own golf course, we brought somebody else in to do it. Things like that. We've had to make changes, and because there was a lack of funding, you know, for that those particular enterprises or projects or whatever. But it's been a gradual and steady process. The main concern with not only the city council but the city staff is to have a balanced budget. That's what our main concern is. And where before we were building, you know, neighborhoods right and left and this, doing this and that, now it's maintaining what we have.
So, your projections, if I'm correct, is you're looking at about a $2 million deficit on your general fund. Starting this current year, and basically that's the way it looks for the next several years.
Now, just, we thought it was going to be that bad last time, and it wasn't.
Okay.
So the project ahead says, look, it looks like we're going to be about 2 million short.
What's contributing to that, Bill? What are the key factors, and what should you be doing to? I mean, you're apparently sucking money out of your budget stabilization funds, which makes me wonder where your money from your budget what's happening to your budget stabilization fund. Help me understand.
Now,
the
you
way
know what the problem is. Property taxes have plummeted. Sales taxes have plummeted. That was our source of revenue, so it's been drastically reduced. That's the problem.
Okay, so, but there's not a lot of prospect that those numbers are going to come back up anytime soon.
In some cases, they are. It was already mentioned the dealership like that is that Ford's going to take it over next month.
Which dealership?
The old Mosaic.
Okay.
So that'll be
What
good.
does that bring in? I must admit, I don't know how much that represents to you guys.
Well, it could be.
Could
Could be a large
Depends how many
number.
Fords they sell.
Yeah, all right. But,
Yeah.
but
Right.
what did a lost dealership cost you in sales tax?
I don't have that
Okay,
information.
all right. I mean, so what other changes do you think are going to need to be made to bridge that $2 million gap?
Bridget?
Yeah.
Well, the actual fact is, like last year, they did the budget, and I'll make a number, maybe around $2 million, or $2 million in the hole. As it turned out, we weren't $2 million in the hole. The money came in and things like that. So you plan for the worst, and then you work things out. And that's what happened this last fiscal year. So again, this fiscal year, they're planning, about a $2 million dent, but we have like 8 or 10 million set aside when we do it. So it's a question of, like any budget, you say we're going to do this, and that. And you may plan well and you do this, but it's
Now,
the
your
result is
stabilization fund is separate from the reserve.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
So how much is in your reserve and how much is in your stabilization fund? Do you
One's
know?
about
has
7 million.
7 and
one's
8, I
about-
think it is.
Okay. So, Bob, how do you give us your analysis of the budget and what needs to be done?
Well, certainly, without a doubt, falling property values have put a serious crimp in Pittsburgh's budget. That I think goes without saying. That's probably true for almost every city. There were increases in the staffing levels in Pittsburgh in the first decade of this century that were well beyond what had been historically done in the past. I mean, I believe there was stats in the Costa Times that said, Pittsburgh had 1 employee for every 280 residents, where Antioch had 1 for every 420, and Oakland for every 490. The previous city manager at one time had 2 assistant city managers. I can't understand why a city like Pittsburgh needed 2 assistant city managers, but we have made serious
So
attempts.
they were overstaffed, is what you're saying?
Absolutely, and I think the very fact that Will pointed out that we've been able to cut over 60 positions from the city of Pittsburgh indicates that we were overstaffed previously, and I think a lot of that had to do with the management style of the previous city manager, who liked everybody compartmentalized doing one specific task. When I was on the city council, the employees wore multiple hats. I mean, the guy that oversaw the softball program in the summer oversaw the basketball program in the fall. We had the harbor master wearing a different hat part of the time. We tried to get as much bang for the buck as we could from our employees. I won't pass judgment on the turning over of the golf course to a private company. I didn't have the details available to me of when that decision was made. What I'm concerned about is that we paid the company $300,000 to come in and take the golf course over. If I'd have been on the city council and that was the best deal that was on the table, I'd have said, hey, let's keep running it for another 6 months or a year till we get a better deal. They're obviously making a profit, so maybe what we needed was, better management of the facility. Maybe we needed to
Maybe your
change.
labor costs are based differently.
I think going forward, not just Pittsburgh, but most
Do you think
cities,
that might have been it?
that's probably part of it. I think going forward, cities are gonna have to learn to operate like Walmart. We're gonna have to hire, a couple of key employees and do the rest with part-time and volunteer people. I mean, I think that's the way things are going, and maybe that's out of necessity, maybe that's just a short-term solution to a problem that'll be different in the long term, but I continue to believe we've got to try to increase our revenue by doing major economic development. And I think we have to hire an economic development director to do that. I mean, saying you can't afford to hire an economic development director is like saying you can't go to the doctor because you're too sick. I mean, a good economic development director will pay for himself or herself many times over in extra revenue that they bring to the city. I'd like to comment a little bit on your redevelopment earlier. Redevelopment saved Pittsburgh. A lot of people that don't know the history, our city took 3 serious hits in rapid succession. In 1954, they closed Camp Stoneman. There was no base closure fees. There was no base reuse plan, nothing that you have today. They locked the gate, gave us the key, said, thanks for the 13 years, see ya. And 2 years later, they closed the river to commercial fishing. And we had a huge cannery at the foot of Railroad Avenue that employed hundreds of people. And then in 1962, the steel mill downsized from a full-service mill to just a finishing mill, where at one time Pittsburgh had 5,000 employees in the steel mill and 20,000 people. Today we have about 1,000 employees at the steel mill. So we well could have gone the way of Richmond or Vallejo if it wouldn't have been for redevelopment. We had aging infrastructure, and people have to remember, whenever we negotiated a redevelopment pact with one of the taxing agencies, we had to agree to a revenue pass-through to them, whether it was the school district, the fire district, the mosquito abatement district. I mean, we had to negotiate a pass-through.
In more modern times.
Yeah, and
but not back in the 70s and 80s.
I can only speak to the 90s. That's
Right.
when I became
the rules
involved.
changed. The rules and the outlook changed by the time.
Yeah, and we used redevelopment wisely. We installed new infrastructure. We doubled the capacity of our water treatment plant, so we don't ever have to worry to build out that we'll have enough water for our citizens. We replaced sewer and water mains that were 85 years old. They're made out of redwood. I mean, we replaced curbs and streets and added acres to our parks. I mean, we used redevelopment wisely. And before we expanded the redevelopment area in the early 90s, we were getting about $80,000 a year in tax increment. After we expanded it, we got $8 million the next tax year. Now that's
when
money.
you expanded it, when?
That was in the early 90s. I think it was 92, 91. I'm going from memory here, but
I know. I know when I was covering the city in the early 80s, your entire city was in a redevelopment agency, which made most of the world look at you and say, roll their eyes and wonder, this seemed kind of abusive. That wasn't, the idea was to put into a redevelopment agency the blighted areas. Your whole city wasn't blighted.
a lot of it was.
Well,
A lot of it had.
you know where some of the houses were being built.
Sure,
Yeah, okay.
sure. But
Okay.
redevelopment basically saved us. And I think for the most part, we've used our redevelopment funds wisely. When I left office in 2002, we had $130 million in the bank to do redevelopment projects, and the council over the last 10 years has used it. So I'm not going to criticize the fact that they used it. I think some of the projects didn't work out as well as they could have, but I think that goes to project management, and that's another issue we can talk about.
Ben, you want to talk a little bit about the budget?
The budget? Well, I can say that I've been on the council 8 years. We balance it every year. It's gotten tighter as time's gone on, as you know. And we've had to go through some cuts. About 25% of our staff got cut, and we outsourced, like we said, we outsourced some of the process.
But going forward, what are you looking at?
Basically, I think it's important to realize that, we have a balanced budget today. We're going to have a balanced budget going on as long as the next 4 years without too much difficulty, as I see
don't
it.
think you have a balanced budget today, but for the fact that
We actually balanced the budget.
But if not for the stabilization
We
funds.
didn't use stabilization. We actually balanced the budget, and actually, from what I understand from our finance director, is we actually have a balanced budget without using any stabilization funds this year, zero. And we have actually a credit of about $60,000 left over. That's my
That's
understanding.
last year.
That's through
11,
June.
12.
That's through last June.
Right, but
Coming
12,
forward- going
12,
forward-
13, you're looking at 1.8.
1.8.
Short, the following year 2.0, the following year 2.4.
I could agree
the
with that.
following year 1.2.
I can agree with that,
Okay.
Dan, but
Okay.
I can say that. Okay.
Okay, so
but-
I'm sorry, when you said this year,
Okay,
we're
well,
in,
this year,
we're in 12,
okay,
13.
the new year, yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Yes, we do have a deficit, but I like last year, we had a deficit almost the whole year through, and by the end of the year, we came through. We did the things that we needed to do. Tax increments came in a little better. We got some sales tax came up a little higher than we anticipated. So all those things, you hopefully count on those things to be positive, and then the trend hopefully is starting to trend up. I see sales in new houses, the values of houses are starting to trend up a little bit, and just recently, so that's a good sign. That'll all hopefully raise our individual down in Martinez that keeps giving us the values down in our city. Hopefully he'll reevaluate some of these properties and raise the
And
values.
what
of the-
individual might that be?
You mean the elected assessor?
I'll let you.
The
Anyway,
elected assessor?
the elected assessor, yes, okay. But anyway, so I look. We've been in this period now since 2000, late 2006, starting 2007,
Yeah.
and so I'm saying that's almost 6 years now. So something's going to have to start trending up. I mean, we've had these recessions before, but this is the longest one we've had, as far as I can remember. Because I go back into '81 when prime rate was
It is.
24%, and all those things. And I see that I do see a little bump in the road that's starting to move upward. So I'm hoping that by that, and looking in a positive, not using a negative thought process, but using a positive process, we can hopefully see those trends moving up. We can take advantage of those
Yeah,
trends.
but the expectation is that local governments will be way behind in revenues.
Unfortunately, that's true. But hopefully we can start looking at a positive side and be proactive rather than reactive.
Unless it's a real good Christmas.
I'm hoping that it's a real good Christmas, because that's a good time to find out exactly where you're at.
Let me ask you about something, Ben. and
Sure.
and it's budget related, but
Mhm.
let's talk about your employee pension costs.
Okay.
What are your unfunded liabilities right now?
If I remember off the top of my head, I think around 12 million at this point. I believe that's the number. Don't quote
For
me,
what?
but
Yeah, okay, and
but
that's
I
for
believe
what?
that's for basically the unfunded liabilities for the county, because that's where we had most of our liabilities
Yeah.
was from the county. So that's the liability fund from the county.
And what about your? You must have a PERS unfunded liability too.
It's basically, let me see. Yeah. I didn't put it on my notes. So I had the other one, but I don't have the one for PERS. And I know that we can set aside and we don't have to pay those unfunded liabilities. We can pay them as they go. I do know that. We don't have to pay them at the same time as they're due, according to
You don't have to pay them at the same.
at list a minute.
Well,
Okay. It's basically as I read it, I was reading it
Mhm.
today, and my understanding of it is that it's not something that we have to continue to pay along with, at the same time we pay all the benefits. We can pay it at, it's accrued, we can accrue it. That's my understanding. Now, maybe I'm misquoting it, but I believe that's how we can do it. But somewhere along the line, unfunded liabilities always have to be paid.
What do they represent to you?
What do they represent to me, personally?
What does an unfunded liability mean to you?
It's something that you have obligation for and you haven't paid it.
And it's an obligation for what?
Whatever it happens to be. This happens to be PERS, which is for healthcare or retirement.
Yeah, for what portion of that healthcare retirement?
Well, it could be 7%, it could be 12%, or 9%, depending on the agency.
Okay. So, well, let me bring you to that then for a second.
Okay?
Your employees pay, what portion of your PERS contributions do you guys pay?
Well, it depends on which one it is.
Yeah.
Either 7%, which is
Mhm.
the max for non-sworn,
Mhm.
and then up to 9% for sworn.
Mhm.
I know the governor just signed a new law into effect that it can go up to 12%. So,
Well, it's sort of not, yeah, but that's
well,
yeah,
that's
right.
that's coming. So-
Okay. But here, let me ask you something then. Why are your police getting a subvention from you guys?
What are they getting? I didn't hear you.
A subvention from, why are you guys, they getting a pickup from you guys? Why are you paying their share?
Well, we're working on that. We started out with 0, and then we went to 2. Now we're to 3. Next year we get to renegotiate.
Yeah, by 7/7/13, you guys are still.
We'll have 3%, and then we'll still be paying 6% at that point. But next year we're going to go to negotiate. That'll be part of our negotiations for 2000.
What do you think should happen?
What do I think that should happen?
Mhm.
I think that it should be a fair process. I mean, due process is everybody should pay their fair share, and
What does
especially.
that mean?
What does that mean to me? It means that it's about economics. It's about being
How
able
much
to.
should they pay? How much should your cops pay?
Well, I really believe that everybody should pay whatever the rate is. I mean,
The full, in
If-
their case, 9%?
well, if it's 9%, that's what everybody should pay, not just the cops. If it's 7% for the others, they should pay it, because I just went through it with my wife. She works for the county, and she's now paying her full share, and it cost us a lot of money. It cost and that's part of the problem. It's all about money. It's about how you can pay or what you can pay, and I know that in my case, it was $400 is what she had to pay. It has to pay every month more out of her retirement. I mean, for her retirement structure.
Will, how much should the police be paying, do you think?
Beg your pardon?
How much should the police be paying of their pension costs?
Well, before I get into that, you're asking a lot of questions. The city council does not run the city. The city employees, the city manager, the assistant city manager, they're the ones that deal with the budget, the expenditures, and they bring it to us, and 40 minutes later, the meeting's over. Okay? They're doing the work, not us. That's all I'm telling you. And we have an excellent city staff that has really done wonders over the last 5 or 6 years. Okay?
We do review.
But my question to you
Yeah.
was, what portion of their 9%?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
But that's just relating to pension. That's not relating to anything else.
If you had asked that question when I was city manager, I might have known the answer. Okay? Right now, he's running that, not me. They come to us and say,
I bet you're glad about that.
huh?
I bet you're glad about that.
Yes, I am, sir.
Bob?
It's the worst job I have ever had.
Do you have any thoughts?
Yep, by far.
I think that we have to negotiate. We have a very good police department. We have to negotiate with them to come to a point where it's equitable for everybody. Perhaps they should be paying their full amount, or maybe we step up to that. Maybe we do gradual increases in the amount till we get to that point. Maybe we can't get there in the next negotiation, but we certainly should be working toward that as a goal.
So we certainly should be working toward,
Having them pay their full amount. If we can't get there immediately, that should be a long-term goal for the city, or maybe a short long-term goal, is to get to that point over the next couple of contract negotiations. The thing about PERS, PERS is a two-edged sword. If you want to attract, a top candidate for city manager, or for, a finance director, or one of your department heads, the first thing that they're going to look at is, does the city have PERS? And if they don't, you're not going to end up being able to choose from the cream of the crop when it comes.
oh, you do have PERS, so that's not an issue
Right.
at the table.
Right.
The issue question, I'm not questioning whether you should be in PERS or not. You are in PERS, and
Sure.
everybody agree. My question to you is the cost allocation, the cost sharing,
being in
and the
PERS.
risk sharing.
Yeah, being in PERS there's a cost involved with being in PERS, and we are in PERS, and we have to work toward an equitable sharing of those
That's
costs.
exactly, I agree with that.
Get to the point where the employees are paying their full share.
Okay. So you'd say eventually the cops should be paying their full 9?
Over time, we maybe can't get there today, but we can certainly get there over the next several negotiation sessions. As
Well,
far
that next several, that could be next generation, because contracts are a few years at a time usually. How many contracts do you want to go on this one?
couple, maybe this one and the next one. As far as reviewing the budget, I don't know. One of the things that I've been concerned about recent council meetings is that when I was on the council, we had 2 meetings a month, first and third Monday regularly. I can't tell you how many Monday night football games that I missed, but I was glad to miss them because we were conducting the business of
I remember you guys used to meet
the
on
city.
these.
Now the city council is meeting once a month, and as Will said, they're breezing through the meeting in 30 or 40 minutes, and I just don't know how council members can ask the questions that need to be asked and challenge staff for what they're presenting. We had sometimes 3, 4, 5-hour council meetings when there was a particularly contentious issue, and I think there's too many things put on the consent calendar.
Well, how are you getting through the meeting so quickly?
First of all, there are not that many things on the agenda, okay? And usually when you had long meetings, there was something that interested the public, and people would come in and they'd be talking and all that kind of stuff. At the city council meeting, the only ones that are there are city staff now and some students. So there isn't this controversy about issues, okay? Because what we're doing, we're maintaining what we have, and there's no new projects and so on and so forth. So the reason the meetings are short is that the public is not attending it. They're the ones that used to talk. They put the 3-minute gap on. They'd have 20 people talking or something like that. Nobody comes to the city council meetings anymore, and that's why there's 1 meeting a month rather than have 2 short meetings.
I would prefer to see anything that involves expenditure of city funds not be put on the consent calendar, and have it at least available for public discussion. I know now that a lot of times the council members will ask to pull things off the consent calendar, but I think
No,
they shouldn't be on the.
No, they don't. Come on.
You don't. They
No,
never
no,
ask?
no, no. Come on.
The meeting that I attended last month, they pulled 3 things off the consent calendar. So I just assumed that's the way that it was going.
No, it depends on the situation. Now, the city council members meet with the city manager before, and staff before the council meeting. Any issues that they have, they discuss them there. And if they can't come to, an understanding or whatever, then they'll pull it. But normally, they understand everything on it.
So the
because
council
of-
members are meeting with the city manager and the staff ahead of
Right,
time?
about the budget.
About anything,
I mean,
basically,
about
if it's
the
an issue.
forthcoming meeting. We go over the whole thing, individually, not as a group of 5. And once in a while, one of the 5 will say that, I didn't like what I heard, and they'll pull it.
Well, I'm just mentioning at the August meeting, they pulled 3 items off the consent calendar. One had to do with the contract for a bakery, and there was 2 other items that were pulled from the consent calendar. I would just rather see them not be on the consent calendar to start with.
So what happened was the thing was all set and then there was a change. So they had to pull it because the agreement had changed.
Okay, well, I wasn't privy to
And
the
then they pulled
details
it.
of
They
the
think that they
agreement.
changed, so they put it off for a month.
So Ben, tell me how these pre-meetings work.
Pre-meetings?
Yeah.
Well, basically, in my case, I meet with the city manager once a week. We talk about any issues. We talk about discussions. I can call him anytime about any issues that I see or whatever. And as far as the other council members, I'm sure what Joe does is he meets with each one of them on a regular basis to discuss where everybody's understanding what's going on. We can't meet. We can only meet with one other council member and discuss any issues. So, unfortunately, that's the way the law is.
Is
But
that unfortunate?
sometimes it is. You don't have to make decisions, but sometimes, you get put in a, you want to be able to work something out or whatever. And I think sometimes we make too many laws for too many things. The Brown Act it's a Brown Act. It says you can't talk to more than one person, one council member. But I see, a lot of times I'll see other council members in other cities, all 5 of them going to events together or doing whatever. We don't do that. We follow the rules, and we meet. If we want to talk to one councilman about an issue, we talk to one councilman. I only talk to one councilman anytime because I know the rules and I don't want to get in trouble, because you violate the rules, you get in trouble.
So basically, how does it work? By the time these items get to the council, are they pretty much, all the problems are ironed out, all the questions are ironed
Well,
out?
I think that's the important thing about it. That's why, a lot of times when people don't talk or communicate with the city manager, he's the one that's asking the items to be put on the agenda. We don't really ask to put items on the agenda. The city manager picks out what he needs to, and then we put them on the agenda, and then they're on the agenda. We look at the agenda. We get the agenda at least a week in advance now. We used to get it 2 days in advance. Now we get it a week in advance. And so we get a chance to look at it, review it, understand
When does the
it.
public get it, do you know?
Say again?
When does it go out to the public, do you know?
It goes out, it's posted the same day that we get it. It's
Okay.
posted it's posted on the internet, so they can go get it off the internet.
So if there's a question or an issue, how does it work? Does he say,
Well,
There's-
he can actually pull it off the agenda since he's the one to put it on there. If there's something on before the agenda comes off, he can pull it off the agenda or pull it off at the meeting and say we're pulling this off and we'll discuss it, or the reasons why we just pulled one off on the last meeting. In fact,
on,
it happened to be on ECRFA,
which is?
East County Regional Fee and Finance
Thank you.
Authority.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And so you pulled it off, somebody pulled it off?
The city manager pulled it off.
City manager, so what's gonna happen? How will that get resolved then?
It'll get put back on once the issues that we had concern about get resolved. Then we'll put it back on and we'll vote on it.
Okay, but how will those issues get resolved? Will it be?
Staff usually resolves issues like that. That's mostly
Okay,
the
and
staff.
then they come to you separately and iron it out, or how do they bring
We
it?
don't. Basically, what it is we get the review.
Mhm.
We get to review all the issues and the items on the items. Okay, we have a council member that's on ECRFA, and we have an alternate that's on ECRFA, and those two go to the meetings. They get the agenda or whatever from that. And if there's an issue, right now we were sued by ECRFA. Okay,
Yeah.
so as you know, I know how smart you are, Dan. So I know that you know what we're talking about. So. So we basically go there, we do our thing, we review it, and if we have questions, we go to city manager and say, these are the questions we have. Okay? He can go to any other councilman. He has the right to go to all 5 councilmen and go and talk to them about the issues. He's not bound by the Brown Act as we are. He can go and discuss those issues. We can't. And so he goes through the process, goes back to staff, they resolve it. If it's an outside source, then we get together with the outside source, they work on it, and they bring it back, and then they'll bring it back, and they'll put it back on the agenda, re-agendize it, and then we'll come back to us, and then, anyway, that's all.
I appreciate, I was just trying to understanding how it works.
When I was on the council, it wasn't just the city manager that drove the agenda. Any city council member could ask for an item to be put on
And
the
they still
agenda,
can.
and it would be put on.
And they still can.
Well, that's good.
They
If
still
the
can.
city manager says okay.
If the city manager says, oh, okay,
Yep. He's the one that puts the thing on the agenda, not a council member.
According to the bylaws, anyway, that's, yeah. If it's pertinent and it makes sense, then you
So
put
the
it
city
on.
manager's determining what goes on the agenda?
Definitely.
Will did when he was on the city council.
And I wasn't the only one.
I mean,
that did
city
that.
manager.
That's the city manager's job.
Well, that goes back as far as I can remember.
What if you have an issue he doesn't want to discuss?
All you have to do is get.
Yeah, because it might be just an issue that one council member is, excited about, and because of the real world, it's an ego trip. So the city manager says, "No, I'm not going to put it on there." And that's
Okay,
it.
but what happens if the council wants to discuss something the city manager
So
doesn't?
if that comes up at a meeting, well, they'll actually discuss it, and 3 will agree, or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Then the city manager has to put it on.
Okay, that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying.
Yes.
So let me come back to a question I started to, I wanted to ask you about real quickly, Will. It's the same question I asked over here. What is the unfunded liability for you folks?
What are you talking about?
Pensions.
Pensions?
Yeah.
As an unfunded liability?
Yeah.
We pay for them. It's part of our debt.
Yeah.
So what does it represent to you?
What does it represent to be? A cost of doing business.
And you don't know what your unfunded liabilities are, or do you?
See, again, you keep calling them unfunded liabilities. They're funded. Everything's funded. If we have to pay something in the pension system, we pay it. That's a fund. Where we get the money from, wherever we can get it. Now that's including this thing we're talking about, the reserve. I forget the name of it is now. Might have $2 million to put in there because we don't have enough money to pay all the bills. But everything is funded.
Last
We
time
pay our bills.
Last time we did it, we bonded for it. We put a bond out and bonded for the unfunded liability. I believe it was $21 million to the county.
Anything else we should know about?
Just where we're going. I mean, we're going in the right. Believe the city of Pittsburgh has gone in the right direction. It's going in the right direction. I mean, I get nothing but kudos from the people of the community. I think we've
You're
done.
sure moving a lot of dirt around, I'll tell you that.
We sure we do, and like Bob said, we have a lot of empty spaces. Yeah, we do. But look at the economy. It's not just us that has those spaces. I was in Martinez this morning, and I could not believe the number of empty spaces in Martinez. I mean, the buildings were just tons of them were empty. As I walked down Main Street, and we're working on those to get them. We got a new restaurant coming in. We have a lot of things still happening in the city. We're hopefully getting another new bakery in the city. We have.
What's it gonna mean to the city of Pittsburgh when the Highway 4, the work that's being done now, which should be finished
2014.
someday?
Yeah, someday. Yeah.
But I mean, in terms of the Pittsburgh of 5 years from now, say, because that
I think-
should be done by then.
Well, I think it's a real nice thing that it will be done because the traffic will flow a lot nicer and get through the cities and towns. I mean, if you go down Buchanan Road, it's 5 million cars a year. That's tough. We need to do the James Donlan Expressway. We need to get that done. We talked about a project that I'd like to see finished. We go back to that. The James Donlan Expressway is something that really needs to be done because it will smooth the traffic. It is a road of significance. It really is. It takes the traffic off of the main road in our city and moves it to a road that can bypass the city. Not that
Does that go from where it ends now to, does it
Crooker Pass. Yeah, it will go from James Donlan, and that's why I made the suggestion that we change it, just leave it James Donlan rather than having another Buchanan Road bypass.
so it would be essentially parallel to Buchanan?
It would be, but it only has one exit or one roadway into it. You come across, you have one road from Pittsburgh to get into it, and then it goes all the way out to Kirker Pass.
Most of the people on Buchanan and on the freeways, they're going to Antioch. They're not coming. Pittsburgh goes the
Or
other
Brentwood
way.
or Oakley, yes.
Goes the other way.
And so I think that's one of the real, we talk about things that's happening, and in fact, that's one of the issues of ECRFA. And that's why we're where we're at today with ECRFA, is because of the Buchanan bypass. Because that's why we got out of ECRFA. And in the first place, in 2009.
What is the likelihood of getting the Donlin bypass, or the Donlin
Well,
extension?
let me say this. When I first got elected in 1989, they were talking about the Buchanan bypass. At that time, we were about 20% funded, and it was supposed to be a 4-lane road parallel to Buchanan. A lot of people don't know, we had federal funds available to widen Buchanan Road years ago to 4 lanes with a median, and a group of citizens, a lot of them whom lived off of Buchanan Road, threatened to recall the council if they took these federal funds and did that. They were afraid the traffic was going to come. Well, the traffic came anyway. I believe today we're no more closer to having full funding for the bypass than we were in 1989, mainly because the cost has escalated. Now they're talking about a 2-lane road instead of a 4-lane road. So maybe someday the Buchanan bypass will be built. Like I said, 1989 is a long time ago, and they were talking. It was in the planning stages.
It actually
then.
goes back to 1977.
Yeah.
Because when I moved here in 1977, that was the hottest thing on the book. So it has been 30 plus years already. My feeling is we're doing the EIR right now. We're still working on the EIR. We're going through the testing of the properties and getting through, and then we're having to fight with the Thomas Ranch right now to get through on the Thomas Ranch to do it, because it is not in our basically city limits. It's in our sphere of influence, but not in our city limits. So that I think is an important venture that needs to be done, not only for just Pittsburgh, but for East County. It's an East County function that needs to support all of East County. And I think if we got out there and talked about it a little more smartly, if we will, to the communities and understanding what it's all about, I think we could probably get some people to start pushing for it to happen more than not. I mean, you're right, $63 million is a lot of money, and that's about what it costs to build it now.
Yeah, I think it was 26 million when I first heard the figure for a 4-lane road.
Yeah, but at that point, they were talking about toll roads in East County on.
Yeah, they did.
And
you're right.
And
wacky stuff that.
Will is certainly right about one thing. The Buchanan bypass is not primarily for Pittsburgh people. It's for Antioch and Brentwood
sure.
people. That's where the traffic's coming from.
Yeah, and if they do build the other road, Buchanan's still going to get hit because
Okay.
the other one's going to back up.
Well, it'll.
Well, yeah, it'll reduce the numbers on the
back up. It's
Buchanan
gotta
Road.
go,
And even if it's down to 2 million, that would be a good thing to reduce it down to 2 million people. Even if you had 3 million going the other way and 2 million, that's still about 200,000 cars a month. 2 million, yeah, just about.
Well, it hasn't. It seems to me, though, that it hasn't choked a lot worse than it has right now because of the economy, because
Yeah,
the
you're
growth
right.
stopped a bit, or is at least assuaged somewhat. However,
But it looks
if
like they're
the
gonna-
economy comes back, there's still plenty of building that could go on
And
farther
there
out
is.
and
That's right.
beyond you.
Yeah, there
I
is.
think permits that are already
Yeah.
issued that just
Yes.
haven't.
I agree.
And
they're-
Highway,
I guess they
Highway
approved.
4 is in a lot better shape now than it was
Oh
back
my
when we
God.
were talking
Oh, yeah.
talking about originally building the bypass. And a lot of improvements to
You go
Highway
to
4.
8 lanes.
We've actually succeeded in pushing the traffic jam pretty much east of Pittsburgh. I mean, you can drive pretty much to Railroad Avenue and get off
That's where
without getting impacted by the traffic. And once they get the Loveridge Road interchange done, it's going to push the traffic jam to Loveridge Road.
And you have to realize that also the number of people have grown beyond the 2025 numbers. There's supposed to be 300,000. You're already exceeding 300,000 people in Far East County. So, I mean, we're only in 2013. So when you go, what's going to happen in 2025 when you have almost 500,000 people there? Then you're still going to have the same.
Well, I can tell you about projections. I don't put a lot of stock.
I
in
know.
them. Ever since I was in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, in 1979, or 1978, and the 1978 traffic on I-95 was 8 times what they had predicted it would be in 1998. I mean, it was just so far off that it wasn't even on the planet. I mean, I could have made that guess, you know, thrown a dart. And sometimes I think that's what they do. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I guess the only person I didn't really ask, Bob, give me your sense of what the unfunded liability represents.
It's an IOU or a promissory note to employees and former employees, and Will makes a good point. We have to fund it. When that note comes due, when that IOU comes due, we have to find the money to pay it, and we will, whether it's through a bond or whether it's through improvements to the budget, through increases in sales tax, and hopefully someday the property tax is going to come back to, maybe not at the level that it was at, but I mean it'll at least start trending up again.
Well, you asked us how one of the other things you did ask us is how we work toward fixing these issues. Well, the sales tax issue was passed, Measure P was passed, at 70% of the people in the community said, yeah, we support you. And to me, that's, especially in the economy the way it is right now, to get 70% of the people in the community, which was, it was not a high vote, but still, even so, 5,000 people supported it. That is hard to say. That's approximately $2 million additional in the revenues that we can add into the numbers to help balance the structure of the budget. So you ask us how we balance the budget. That's another way. Is those Measure P funds will help do that. So I think we're going in the right direction, and I think we're, as a council, we've worked hard together. We've been succinct. We've done the things that we need to do to understand the issues, and we've attacked the issues in a positive way. We've worked well. We've gone through a city manager, and now we have a new city manager. He's been there a year now, and he's been with the city for 15 years, but he's a new city manager doing new things. He's a different city manager than our previous city manager. Does things differently. So learning how he does things is a new approach to say, okay, he's tighter with the money. He doesn't spend the money like the previous city manager. So we talk about growth and reduction of staff. Our senior staff, we're down to 3 senior staff. Our treasurer and our HR is 1 person. Our power company and our assistant city manager and we talk about economic development. Garrett is all of those things, and he's got many hats he's wearing, and he's been really good at all of those things. He was the redevelopment director at one time, so we talk about not having one. We do have one. He's probably as good or better than most ones, and obviously we're paying him not enough money for all the hats he's wearing. I can assure you, he's working really hard at what he does.
You're down about 25% on your miscellaneous staff, aren't you?
Yeah, that's about true. That's right, the number, 25%.
Well,
Folks,
that's what I was going to say. Certainly there's no two ways about it. The old town area, the old downtown part of Pittsburgh, is looking good. They've made a lot of improvements. They've brought a lot of businesses in. I'm concerned about some of the project management that took place over the last 10 years. There's been a couple of projects that have gone way over budget, way over time, and I think we were probably lax in project management on a couple of those projects, and it amounted to a lot of money. The brew pub that we built was supposed to cost $2.5 million. It ended up costing $8.2 million and took 3 times as long to build. We spent money when I was on the council to stabilize the facade and fix the roof of the California Theater, but the renovation was supposed to cost $1 million, and it's currently at 7.2, and that doesn't include the balcony. By the time they get done with that, that's probably going to be a $10 million project. We built a $25 million civic center when I was on the council.
19.
On time, on budget, with only a 5% contingency, and that was because we had a project manager that was like a bulldog. Anything that went on that project, she knew exactly what was supposed to happen, and there weren't those kind of cost overruns. And I think that goes not so much to the council, but to the previous city manager, who basically tried to solve the problem by just throwing a lot of money at him. And a lot of that money could have been used for other purposes if he'd have had a stricter oversight on the amount of money that he was spending. But no two ways around it. The downtown's looking good, and people like what they see. That's for sure.
Well, thank you, folks. We very much appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.